That's getting cut out.
No way.
I'll leave it.
Ladies
Wait,
and
first, a toast?
we got water in here.
I know what we're
To you guys. Oh, this is going to be our 6th episode. No, lucky number 6, whatever.
Should we take
Some good water.
I have Gatorade mine. It's my...
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and masculine men, ladies and toxic men, welcome to the You versus You podcast, episode 6. What are we talking about today, Lucas?
We are talking about why it is bad to be masculine.
Terrible.
Why? What's the point?
Terrible. If you are masculine, you're toxic. Tell them why.
Because that's just the way the world works, buddy.
Exactly. And if you question it, if you dare,
If you question it, then you're misogynistic and you're a woman hater.
and you don't belong here,
So scram.
and you should get canceled.
So scram, all right? Take a hike.
Let's blow this popsicle stand.
Yeah, blow this popsicle
Take a
stand.
hike,
Why don't
Grandpa.
you skedaddle out of here, buddy.
Trying to think
It's another one.
Um,
Why don't you wander out of this podcast?
I'm trying to think of like an old school one when they're like about to fight and they're like, "You don't want to scuffle, do you?" No,
I've never heard that one.
never heard. You've heard scuffle.
I've heard of scuffle, but I've never heard someone say, "You don't want to scuffle, do you?" That's what this podcast is about.
Guys, what we're talking about today is toxic masculinity. Now, this is the first episode that we actually did some research for. So we looked up the definition of
Wait. We've done research on all the other topics we've talked about. Just when he says we did research, we mean literally like right before starting this podcast. The other stuff we've been researching for years throughout our entire life.
All right, fudge off what I just said. This is the first episode where we actually used the internet to actually map out what we're about to talk about.
Yes.
So we looked up on our last episode. If you didn't listen to it, check it out. We talk about how to be a high value man and how to live in your masculine purpose. And so there's no way that we can get away with talking about that without touching on the fact that without touching on the subject of toxic masculinity. And so what we did was we looked up what is toxic masculinity, what actions, what situations, what things that men do, things that men believe make them a toxic male.
I just got a cramp like in my fucking jaw for some reason.
In your jaw?
Yeah.
You know what I would get? I would get like really bad ones on my neck. I would literally just be chilling in class or like in practice or something, and I'd be like, ah! I'm not even joking, but
What the frick?
all right, yeah, watch your tongue today, because it's a whole nother day. So mine and Lucas's hypothesis is that there is no such thing as toxic masculinity. Why do you believe that, Lucas?
What we found when doing this research, the stuff that qualifies as toxic masculinity are people just being a bunch of a-holes.
Even before we did the research, why did you believe that?
What do you mean?
Like, so they don't believe that, we just believe that because we just researched that 5 minutes before this video.
Well, the reason I thought toxic masculinity wasn't really a thing was because a lot of times when you hear about toxic masculinity, it's very extremist feminists talking about it, and extreme feminists usually just hate any time a man even breathes. So to me, their word can't be taken seriously. There's a difference between feminists who actually are fighting for like equality between men and women, and extreme feminists who just want to tear down men.
100%. 100%. And so, yeah, there's a difference between supporting women and shaming men.
Yep.
And so what we're talking about today is toxic masculinity. And even before we did this was always on my list of episodes I wanted to do, because most of the conversation around this it doesn't paint the full picture. It kind of just brings out a few points that, you know, everybody would really agree with without really questioning the actual subject, without really questioning the origin of this conversation. So we came up with 5 big bullet points that we found that were the most popular when talking about this subject. And the bullet points are as follows. I'm going to read all 5 and we're going to go through them one by one. I forgot my reading glasses.
Bailey smeared.
Yeah,
the
I
ink.
smeared the hell out of this thing. So we have like a we have
They
a
could see the
$1,000 fountain pen.
They could see the ink blot on the page.
Yeah, they can't see it.
7 years ago. Look like you're about to give a speech.
Well, I gotta have the pen. 7 years ago. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's the 5. Okay, number 1 is, yo, my writing with this pen though.
Your writing with anything is horrible.
It's true. Oh, number 1 is that the view of men and emotions is that men shouldn't have emotions, so therefore that's, you know, that ends up becoming a toxic trait in men. And, you know, I mean, that's pretty negative thing to have if you just believe that you shouldn't have any emotions, because we do. And so it's believed that it's a belief against toxic masculinity that we're not supposed to have emotions, and therefore that leads to men, you know, not believing that they're real and just end up isolating themselves and becoming depressed and all that good stuff. So after that, it's extreme self. So that's number 1. Number 2 is extreme self-reliance. When you do need help, you're so masculine where you're like, I don't need anybody else's help. And then you just kind of like F off everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm a man. And Igor need no help.
Igor eat, Igor work, Igor sleep.
Igor please himself. The demons got me.
Demons. They're so funny, bro.
The third one is the extreme desire dude, they're hilarious.
I thought of the hairspray.
Oh, dude, that's funny. The third one is extreme desire for dominance. So, you know, I'm sure we all know those guys where, like, not only are they competitive, but it's competitive to a point where it kind of like ruin everybody else's mood. Where, you know, if they don't win, they make everybody else feel bad, or they're just competitive to the point where instead of building the highest tower in the city, they have to tear everybody else's building down in order for their own tower to be the biggest.
Yeah.
The next one is the devaluing of women. That one doesn't really matter. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The devaluation of women, of their opinions, etc.
Not treating them as equals, basically.
Right. And the last one is the condemning of any actions that may seem feminine for a male, or condemning any actions that a male will perform with another male that seem like they swing for the other team, or actually swing for the same team. So if they do, for example, if they're extra, if they're having extra affection for their homie, someone that's and someone that has toxic masculinity.
They played that game.
What game?
The game where like you all get in a circle and you get blindfolded. You blindfold one of them, and then you play guess your meat. Guess who's meat?
You play guess who's meat? Yeah.
Dude,
so
one of the comments under that said, "Yeah, we were wild. The principal used to record us too."
Yeah. So if you were in middle school and you blindfolded the homies, you know everybody did, and then after the homies were blindfolded, you played
guess who's meat.
Guess who's meat. You know that would seem as like toxic.
Man.
You know, someone that had toxic masculinity would condemn that. Those are the 5 things. That was hilarious.
That TikTok, I was crying.
Oh man. So a general overview of these 5, Lucas, not getting into any one of them specific. Thoughts?
Like, what do I think about these 5, or?
Yeah, or like, so what do you think about toxic masculinity?
Again, dude, I think when people talk about toxic masculinity, when it's toxic masculinity, I think it's guys that are insecure with themselves, so they project their views on other guys. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of condemning certain actions.
I feel like I've been exposed to it more from women. A lot of these women, very left, very feminist. So I'm curious, where do you get that opinion from?
The opinion on that people are...
Yeah, like where you get a lot from men that are probably more beta, right?
Well, I was just using that in terms of, like, the actions that the women describe as toxic masculinity are often the actions that these insecure males are doing and to other males generally. You know, like if someone is crying for something and they say don't be a P word, then you wouldn't call the guy that was crying toxic masculinity. You'd call the guy that's projecting his opinion on the other guy toxic, you know? But yeah, most of the time I hear about toxic masculinity, it's definitely women on the left. And I mean, they also throw terms out like mansplaining and stuff like that.
Right. 100%. So our hypothesis is that toxic masculinity is the overview of the negative traits that men develop when, that is not actually coming from a place of masculinity, is coming from a place of insecurity. So we believe that the label of toxic masculinity, you're not labeling a man that is overly masculine. You're labeling a man that is insecure, that is beta, that is not living true to purpose, that is, a victim of his circumstances. So let's get into it. Number 1.
You still can't read it?
Okay, so number 1. Oh yeah, so that's they're pretty similar. So the number 1 is emotion, and perfect transition because you just brought it up. In your analogy, you see someone crying, someone walks by, don't be a, right? In that situation, which one so who would you say is more masculine, the person crying or the person saying don't be a P word?
The person crying.
Why?
Because, okay, so like let's just take it like with the little contents we have. All we see is someone crying and someone walking by telling him not to be a P. Yeah. You don't know why that person's crying. 100%. You don't know if like a family member just died or 100%. They just lost their job that was their only source of income, keeping a roof over their head. But this other guy walks by and already has like this preconceived notion that anytime a man cries, it's like being a little B and you should stop that. That's not very masculine of you. Mm-hmm. And we've talked in our previous podcast that emotional intelligence and understanding that as a man, as a human being in general, you're gonna have these emotions and it's okay to have these emotions. The guy that's crying knows that it's okay to have these emotions. So he's being a normal human and crying regardless of the situation, you know?
Those bars.
I need to stop saying after I finish.
100%. What we talked about on our last episode is that the definition of masculinity is to have, you even looked it up, emotional intelligence, to be aware of your emotions, to not be afraid, not only to express them, but also of other people's opinions. Not be afraid of other people's opinions, don't care about them. So that means being okay with expressing something like crying, being okay with that and not caring what somebody else thinks. So, and like you said, having that emotional intelligence, that also comes with the skill of empathy, with being aware of the fact that people have emotions, that you have emotions, and that although sometimes they may bring you to conclusions in your mind that might not be the best choice, the masculine option there would be to be aware of those emotions and look at them from a logical standpoint and make the best decision there from what is necessary, not what is the easiest option. What is necessary? What is the best option, not what is the easiest option? So where do you think that comes from? Why do you think that's associated with toxic masculinity? That men believe that they shouldn't have emotions.
I feel like that's just something that kind of developed throughout, like, like maybe people back in the day saw that as a sign of weakness, and that's just something that carried on throughout. Like maybe like way back when people were like still fighting for land and like using like bows and arrows and spears to fight. Like if you get hit and you start crying, then it's a sign of weakness, and like you're showing your enemy that you're hurt or something, you know. And maybe now that's just trickles down to the very small, minute things that make us cry.
Yeah.
Are considered signs of weakness.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's because emotions are just very when you think of emotional intelligence. I don't know about you, but I think of the feminine, and I think that's a huge skill that they have. The women in my life that I know that have a high emotional intelligence, I can't think of a man that I know in my life that has a high emotional intelligence up to par with them. So I think that's a huge skill and an advantage that the feminine has over the masculine, which is a super awesome and powerful thing, and something that everybody should have in their corner. So 100% that comes from that, people believing that men should not have emotions when that's just not biologically the truth. From the way that we're all built, the way that all of our brains work, subconscious, all that stuff. And so that's associated with toxic masculinity, Lucas. So if a man thought that they shouldn't have emotions, is that toxic? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Because then you're not going to be able to stop yourself from having these emotions. So all these emotions are just going to build up, and eventually you're going to lash out in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And it's not healthy for your mental state.
Yeah. So what we're saying is this is a toxic trait. We're not saying that these traits are not toxic. What we're saying is this is not masculinity. This is insecurity. This is less common in the feminine. That's why it's associated with masculinity. However, this is not masculinity. This is just straight up insecurity. And again, moving in fear, being afraid of your emotions and not wanting to face them, even though that may be the hard thing to do. Usually the hard things to do are typically the right things to do and the best things to do. So you probably should do that fudging thing.
All right, let's go this whole episode. No swears. We're doing good.
Yeah, bro, I was doing great on the last episode.
Nah, you did it first, and then that opened the floodgates.
No, what did I say?
You did it first,
What
but
word?
I did it more. You did it something in the beginning,
The S
in like
word
your
or what?
opening. I think so.
In the opening? Hell no. Well, we'll see. I don't remember doing that.
Hell's a bad word you discussed.
No, it's not.
I don't know. It probably is.
No, it's no way.
YouTube's super strict with it.
Oh, okay. I'll start being more mindful of that.
With the crapping butt.
Yeah. So you already touched on instead of being so that's the toxic masculinity. So what would you already kind of touched on that. So the actual masculinity version of emotions is what in 30 seconds because you already touched on it.
The masculine thing for emotions is being able to express your emotions and being comfortable in your skin to express these emotions, because guys are going to tell you throughout your entire life that crying is a feminine trait, but if you're comfortable within yourself and in your own skin, you're not going to care about what those people have to say. And again, tying back into masculinity, caring about people's opinions of you is not a masculine thing to do at all.
No, unless I mean there's some
Unless that person's like important to you,
right? Like the compromises would be like is if it's your trusted advisor. Mm-hmm. I mean, tons of lessons in history or in anything in general have conquerors or successful people. They have had trusted advisors who they trust them to lead them in the right direction when they started to stray off path. If they became too arrogant, if they became too power hungry, if they started messing around, making the wrong decisions, etc. So there are exceptions to that for people to keep you in line, keep you on check. For some people, it could be your mom. For some people, it could be your business partner. It could be your woman, it could be your man, whatever. So there are some compromises for that, but the point is for the opinions that is not going to change your life, is not going to affect you in any other way. The only reason that does affect you is because you're letting it into your head. A ship does not sink by being in the ocean. A ship could be on the ocean and stay above water. The only time a ship sinks is when you let the water inside the ship. So it's your job to realize what deserves to be inside your head and what doesn't. And that is the masculine thing to do.
Or even the lions don't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep.
But when that lioness says, yo, I'm hungry, then you better go hunt, baby.
You better go get down.
You better go get that. You better go get that money.
Actually, I think lions, the women do the hunting.
Oh, that's true. And the men protect the pack.
Yeah. That fool's lazy.
Lazy ass. That was toxic. Okay. Well, you said foo.
That's a bad word.
Alright.
Bro, you know that guy, Dogface? This is a whole complete opposite thing.
Yeah.
The Ocean Spray guy, he lives in Pico.
You mean the Minute Maid guy?
No, Ocean Spray.
Isn't it Minute Maid?
It's Ocean Spray.
Bro, I hope no one listens to this episode. I thought it was Minute Maid the whole time.
That fool lives in Pico.
You're lying.
He did an ad at the Canes, like representing Canes.
You're lying.
I swear. It was on her story. I think it's on TikTok.
What? Well, I'm not surprised the way he looks.
The way what, baby?
Like. You know where I grew up. I'm allowed to. I'm allowed to my opinion.
No, you're not.
Because I'm not afraid of others' opinions of me. So the next one is extreme self-reliance. This one, I think this one's going to be the most interesting. Thoughts, questions, concerns.
Extreme self-reliance. I think, well, obviously this could be toxic. Okay, so like think of all the successful people that you know of. Every single one of them has a mentor, aka someone they look to for help, for the most part.
Yeah.
If not, they also have business partners.
Yeah.
They got employees. All these people are helping them because they reached out and asked for help. Even an employee, they put that application out there because they needed help in a specific spot.
We talked about Mike Tyson last episode. He had, do you know a story with his trainer?
I mean, there's a lot of stories with this trainer.
Do you know about his trainer? Like his
his trainer like found him when he like.
Yeah, his trainer found Mike Tyson. Where did he find him?
I don't know where he found him, but Mike Tyson had been like, basically.
He was going down the wrong path.
Yeah, he had no love in his life until.
Yeah, and then he found this trainer who was an old man, and his trainer even said, like, I had Mike Tyson gave him purpose again. Mike Tyson was a kid with a ton of potential, and he showed Mike Tyson the ropes, and that was his mentor. And I love the way Joe Rogan put it. He said, Mike Tyson with all like the physical potential, and then that had his trainer that gave him the mental and the spiritual and everything else, just made Mike Tyson into everything that he became, because his mentor was that missing piece. So I just love that story. But go ahead, you brought that up. You were saying that every most successful stories had that mentor.
Yeah, if you look at people who are successful, not only successful but like happy with their lives, they've reached out to people. If like they struggled with their like mental health, they've probably reached out to therapists. Like now it's becoming more acceptable to reach out to like and normalize therapy, which I think is dope, because they used to have like the stigma that if you go to therapy you're like a psychopath.
Right.
But it's just not. I think the way it ties into not being like super masculine is because if you don't look out for help, you're going to try to do everything on your own, and you're going to have all these emotions fluster up within you because you can't do X, Y, or Z, or because you can't let out, like you can't like cry because you think emotions are a whack thing to do.
Yeah. So why do you think this is associated with masculinity in the first place? Like, why did we find that under toxic masculinity?
Because it's mostly men doing this. Like, it's always been socially acceptable for women to cry. It's always been socially acceptable for women to, like, reach out for help. But, I mean, for reasons I don't even know, for all of time, it feels like it hasn't been socially acceptable for men to cry or to, like, even reach out for help. Because if you reach out for help, like, I don't know. I just never thought this way, so I guess they kind of see, like, as a sign of weakness. And it's just something that's more common for men to do, so it got associated with masculinity, because masculine literally means like men, traits for men.
Yeah. So that person that would, only be self-reliant, if that's not toxic masculinity, what do you think that is? Because that we found that under toxic masculinity.
Arrogance, like just thinking you don't need anybody and you could do everything on your own, and not being realistic with yourself, and you think like you're this some sort of Superman who could just do, which is, it could get misconstrued, because having the confidence in being able to do whatever you think you can do, but being so like arrogant and confident that you think you could do everything by yourself, I feel like those are like two lines that could get blurred real easily. Because the masculine man, who is alpha and who is a high value man, knows he can do anything he puts his mind to, but he also understands that he's not a god that could do everything on his own, so he'll look out for help.
Not a god. I love that you said that. I know we keep talking about Mike
Unless
Tyson.
it's Kanye West, because Kanye West is a god.
I know. We keep talking about Mike Tyson, but we keep bringing up Mike Tyson because Mike Tyson studied leaders and studied conquerors, and he had a lot of information to give on that. Studied these alpha, real masculine men, real conquerors who really, took land and expanded their empires. And Mike Tyson said that as he was studying these conquerors, he found one thing that they all had in common, that they all feared two people. One was God, and the second one, can you guess? Do you remember? The second one was their mothers. They were all God-fearing men, and they all feared their mothers. And so the reason, am
I going to be a world conqueror? Those are the two people I fear.
The reason, so they feared the mother because growing up, a lot of them didn't have fathers, and their mom was, yes, Lucas. A lot of them.
Am I going to be the next Mussolini, bro?
Yeah, a lot of them. So a lot of them had to follow their mom's rule, had to follow their mom's word. And so when they grew up, they had that urge, they had that motivation to be their own leader, to make their own decisions, and to, have other people follow their own word. So there was a little arrogance in that. But the first one was the most important, because the first one was that they had to fear God, so that there was this check and balance. There was this checks and balance that was going on inside their own brain, that yes, they believed that they were worthy of being a leader to others. However, they were not capable of living in their own skin and believing that they were untouchable. They were still God-fearing men. They still had the checks and balances of their power, so they knew that they were not unstoppable. Anything can happen, and I am only here because of God. And so I thought that was amazing. Mike Tyson said that, after every battle, all of the inhumane deeds that you have to perform in order to take empires like that, take land, even after all of that, even after those executions of the enemy, sometimes friendly, and having the power to do so, at the end of the day, they still got on their knees and asked for forgiveness from their God. And so the way that this ties into self-reliance is that not that if you want to be masculine, you have to be a conqueror, but true masculine self-reliance is understanding that you are not almighty, you are mortal. Ponder on your mortality and seek guidance and seek help, seek education, and that is the only way that you can really level up, right? Seek mentors in different parts of your life. That's really the only way that you can really level up in those different parts and really become completely personally developed, compared to the other option. If you think you're already there, you're going to be so far behind compared to everybody else. Thinking where that came from, I think that kind of ties into the other one, where when you think of men, I guess it's viewed as a weakness for men to seek guidance, but it never has been. Alexander the Great had, I believe it was it so, I don't want to mess it up. It was Oh, I think it was Aristotle. It was either Aristotle or Socrates or Plato. I'm like naming all of them. I don't even it doesn't has no effect anymore. But Alexander the Great had one of the most famous and great philosophers that was alive throughout his time as his mentor. And so not only was he and Alexander the Great's dad was a leader himself, so he had those leader traits coming from his father, and the ability to ponder coming from his teacher, an actual philosopher, and that's why he's considered one of the most greatest leaders of all time. Anything else to add on extreme self-reliance being related to masculinity?
I think that touched on it pretty good, dude.
Yeah. So let's talk about the opposite of that. What's the point where you should be self-reliant?
Do you want to start this one, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I think you actually kind of touched on it already. You should be self-reliant, and for example, the example that you brought up, if you feel like you should see a therapist, the self-reliant, the masculine thing to do would be to seek help no matter the repercussions of opinions from other people, right? So let's, like, for example, you brought up the opinion that, or the common narrative that if you seek a therapist, if you seek help, whatever, that you are seen as weak, or like you said, not right in the head for some reason, or different in a negative way, when really that's the most brave, and that's probably the best decision to make. Again, not moving in fear and not worrying about others' opinions, because that's going to be the one thing that's going to move the needle for you to become better in that point in your life, in that subject in your life.
Yeah. When you asked me the question, like the opposite, I kind of took it as being overly reliant on other people.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
oh, that's great. That's a great point.
Being reliant on people to get you to start living your life in your purpose, or being over reliant on your parents once you're past a certain age where you should be able to live on your own. You know, like maybe you're living at home, they pay all your bills, pay for your phone, pay for everything. Maybe you're over reliant on your girlfriend for like to give you happiness or something, and you can't find a way to get your own happiness.
100%. You can have an addiction to becoming reliant. You can have an addiction to the things that we talked about on the last episode, the things that are supposed to complement your life, not be the focus. Your focus in life should be your purpose. Women should be a complement, or your romantic relationship should be a complement. Money should be a complement. Attention, fame, status, everything else should only be a complement. Your purpose is your focus. And boys do what they feel like doing, what feels easy when they want to do it. Men do what is necessary when you're supposed to do it, no matter how you feel. Right? And so I think that's the lesson there, that because we all have those moments when you don't feel like doing it, and that's natural.
I don't feel like going outside and jump roping every single day, but I still do it.
Why?
Because it's not an enjoyable task for me, but I know it's going to help me get the results that I desire.
Exactly. 100%. And so the opposite of that, being too self-reliant on one thing or in anything I think that itself is a trait of being, I want to say beta. What's another word for that? Because that could be for anybody.
Well, anybody could be a beta.
True that.
And even like not even just being self-reliant on other people. If you have to be reliant on certain substances to give you happiness, if like you can't have fun without smoking, or you can't have fun without drinking, then that's a very like weak mindset to have.
Definitely be reliant on yourself for the things that you are confident in, for the things that you know that you can accomplish, and move without fear. I think when you remove that window of fear, what you are capable of becomes very, very clear. And only then can you see what you can accomplish and what you should seek guidance on. I think that's the best way to put it. The next one is to touch on that one lastly. Again, we don't believe that having extreme self-reliance is even associated with masculinity. That's associated with, I think you put it best, arrogance, and again, insecurity. I think when you're that self-reliant, you're insecure and you're afraid, you're moving in fear to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to leave you at the end with less chips in your hands than the next person that did ask for help. You ask and you shall receive. Even if you don't receive, you never would have received it if you never asked, right? You can't, I love the quote where, I'm pretty sure this one's super popular, but, the glory isn't for the people that are in the stands. The glory is for the people who are actually in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I don't believe that's associated to masculinity at all. Devaluation of women. You want to skip this one?
Yeah, that's not important.
I'm just kidding. So devaluation of women is associated with toxic masculinity. I have come across people. We've come across people that have been all of these. This one stands out because it's an easy one. I think this one's just like an easy topic to realize. The easiest topic to realize when you're talking to someone like this out of all of them. So why do you think that's associated with toxic masculinity? Why is that here? Why do people believe that that's masculinity?
Because again, it's one of those things that only guys could really do.
Yeah.
Like, you're not really going to see women devalue themselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I don't associate this with masculinity, because to me, a masculine trait would be treating everyone as an equal, regardless of sex, race, gender, orientation, whatever. What?
Nothing.
Why are you laughing? What's funny?
My water tasted, gave me that sour feeling. But go on.
Okay. But yeah, treating everyone with respect is like what's a masculine trait to me. So when you're like, what was the word, the specific word that they used? Devaluing women?
Yeah,
and their opinions?
the devaluation of women.
And also like the devaluation of women and their opinions. To me, someone who's masculine, and this could be a masculine trait within males and females, is that you're open to hearing what everyone has to say. So like devaluing someone's opinion is not very masculine for you to do, right? But even further, like, it could go into arrogance and insecurity, because you're either so arrogant that you literally think people are below you for no reason, or you're insecure that you gotta like masculize yourself times a million, and you just try to do whatever's gonna be like, oh, that dude's alpha, that dude's cool, that dude's this, that dude's that. But in reality, you're living to satisfy other people's opinions.
1,000%. So the reason that's there is because it's associated that toxic masculinity, the term toxic masculinity is labeling masculinity as toxic. That's what we don't believe in, because a lot of these reasons are not true masculinity. A lot of these reasons are actually based off of and rooted from actual insecurity, not masculinity. The opposite of masculinity, actually, if it's in a male. And so the devaluation of women, again, I think the only people that I know that devalue women are people that have the most desire for a woman or more women, right?
Yeah.
And so, in anything, the people who have the least want the most. The people who, that's not right. The people who give the most receive the most, and the people who take the most want the most. Mm-hmm. And so, someone that is always in the chase for women, someone that is always, needing more attention from women, etc. That's coming from a scarcity mindset that you don't have enough, you don't have anything, and not even that. That's very physical. Like if you're not talking to any women right now, then you don't have any women. So, but it's not even that. It's not even that the supply of women in your life is scarce. It's the confidence that you don't believe that you don't deserve a woman in your life. And that is not a masculine belief. That is, again, insecurity. And so those are typically the only people that devalue women. I think, like you said, true masculinity is looking at everybody as an equal, taking every opinion as exactly as it is, an opinion of someone else that you should sit, think, and ponder about. And then from there, you decide if you should make an adjustment or if that, probably doesn't relate to your life.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I mean, a lot of these things are made very popular by pop culture. These musics out here. The way music portrays women, obviously, pop culture. I mean, I love James Bond, but I guess James Bond, but I guess that would be another one. Like they say that. Okay, on this episode of movies that Lucas hasn't watched, Lucas, have you seen any James Bond movies?
No.
Bro, any?
None.
Oh my God.
It's not my fault you watch every movie in the world.
I don't
got time to be sitting at theaters, G.
Jesus.
So why is James Bond?
So James Bond, this is literally every James Bond movie. James Bond gets an assignment. James Bond has to take down a very bad person that wants to destroy the world. And then he gets like either an operative to work with him, that's a woman, or he finds the woman that works with the guy, and like he kind of like seduces them, he sleeps with them, and then he just like uses women as a way to achieve his goal. So he just like uses them and he doesn't care about them at all. He just like uses them for their emotional intelligence, of course.
Canceled. No.
Yeah, he uses women, he sleeps with them, he gets their information, and then he moves on and doesn't care about women. He looks at women as more of objects rather than intelligent beings. So that's why people think that James Bond is toxic, teaches like toxic masculinity.
A misogynist.
And so actually they're saying in the next James Bond that you're probably not going to watch, that supposedly like the roles are not reversed, because then that would mean that she's using him. But that supposedly, well, also because Daniel Craig's like over 50 years old in this movie. So I mean that would look kind of weird if he was with a really young girl, even though he looks really good for his age. Supposedly it's gonna be different, but so that's kind of like the same idea that goes around the James Bond movies. So that's seeing with toxic masculinity, that men just are just like using women. What do you think about that?
Using women is toxic masculinity?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that just goes into with like devaluing somebody.
Right. What was the thing about the totem pole you brought up?
Oh, like not to also like over glorify women,
Oh, right. You could talk about that now. I mean,
like not to put them on a pedestal.
The next one is overvaluation of women.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess this goes more into like being a high value man more than it does toxic masculinity. But real quick, like at the end of the day, everybody here is human. Everybody has the same emotions. Everybody has, like, to a certain extent, the same DNA makeup. That's why we're all humans.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't
made out of stars.
You shouldn't put anybody on a pedestal. You shouldn't put anybody above you or anybody below you, because we're all humans. We all have our own stars. We all have our own experiences. But at the end of the day, in 10 million years from now, if humans are extinct, they're just going to look back on us as humans. They're not going to look back as this, okay, this human was up here and this human was down here. We're all humans. Right. 100%. And also, it's not, again, this is more for like a high value man, which we should have talked about in that episode. If you put these women on a pedestal, you're going to stumble on your words around them so much because you're so nervous and you think they're like godlike beings that you're not going to be able to talk to them. You know what I mean? You're so in your head with these people on pedestals that you're not going to be able to like articulate coherent sentences, and you're not going to be able to truly express how you feel. You're going to be like rethinking everything you say, everything you do, and it's just not a good way to live.
Not only that, I've come to the realization recently that people kind of in the overvaluation of women, people kind of like worship women for their physicality. Obviously, that have, let's call it like that vase aesthetic, or like those, what's another word for it?
Hourglass.
Like hourglass aesthetic. And I was realizing the only that's actually more common now, and it shouldn't be the thing that is like most valued anymore. Like, I think we're kind of moving past that now. And I think actually social media has kind of thrown that at us so much that now that's kind of the thing that everybody's kind of realizing, kind of waking up to the fact that the real thing that is worth overvaluing or actually taking a look at is the intrinsic value of women. Same thing with the intrinsic value of a friendship, of anything in life. The thing more important, the thing more rare than the way someone looks is the way someone lives, the way someone acts, the way someone treats other people, the way someone reacts to situations, the way someone reacts to heartbreak, losses, hard stuff, good stuff. How do you react to a win? How do you react to a loss? Do you go crazy? Do you come back? Do you adjust? Do you thank God? Do you curse God?
Yeah, and putting people on pedestals based off of like your sexual attraction to them is like one of those 7 deadly sins, you know? Lust. I just wanted to say that.
And so, yes, it's
Which
just,
I brought that up because you're falling into one of these 7 deadly sins, which is lust, and you're falling, I guess, victim to it, and you're not controlling your own thoughts within it. So that, to me, is not a masculine trait. So that's why it's not masculine for somebody to do that.
So that goes full circle to your first point. The devaluation or overvaluation of women is not masculine. The masculine thing to do is to look at everybody equally, as in let everybody have an equal opportunity to give their opinion if that's what they're doing.
Don't look at guys that are like peak athletes as like gods. Don't look at really beautiful women,
or even guys that aren't athletic as not good enough to be in your life.
Yeah,
right.
Don't look at them as these like either like. Don't look at models and be like, oh, that's a model I can never talk to. Just look at them as someone
that doesn't, let's say someone that's like less fit than you. They aren't more beta than you just because they're less fit. What if they work out more than you, but they're like a marathon runner? They just started their journey, right? So that is not coming from a place of masculinity. The devaluation, overvaluation of women is not only coming from a place of insecurity, but a place of extreme desire, where I think the only place that comes from is a devaluation of yourself. The only reason why you would overvalue women is because you devalue yourself. The only reason why you would devalue women is, again, I think if you devalue women, I think you're devaluing yourself also.
How so?
I think the only way that you would devalue women, it's like the same thing. Like if you accuse somebody, if you a type of person that would accuse someone else of an act, that in turn shows that you are capable of performing that act. So like, let's say I accuse someone of cheating. If that's something that I would never do or never even think of, that probably wouldn't even come to my head to do that. Right. So the same thing with this, the energy that you put out is a direct reflection of the energy you keep within yourself.
I get you now.
So if you're devaluing women, if you're devaluing other men who, let's say that you're believing is beta, that's you trying to justify yourself in your head that you are worthy. And the only reason you try to justify that you're worthy in your head is because deep down you believe that you need that justification because you are not worthy. When in truth that you are worthy, you are enough. We all are on this journey of self-improvement, and that is what we are here for.
It's like Thor's hammer. Are you worthy or are you not?
Yeah.
Marvel reference. I've seen those movies.
Finally, a movie that Lucas has seen.
What's the last one?
When you were in Endgame, when you were watching Endgame for the first time and you saw it in the theaters, how was the theater's reaction when they saw
Dude, it was dope.
America pick up the hammer?
I went at midnight, so it was all the nerds.
Oh, you
there.
did too?
Yeah. It
Yo,
was me
don't
and
call them nerds.
they are nerds. I'm a nerd too.
Well,
though.
we're nerds because I
Yeah.
saw it like 3 times. I went at midnight.
Nerds is a
too.
good term now.
Yeah.
Me and Drew went. Andrew.
Yeah.
And the reaction was dope, dude. I
Oh
think
my
I saw
God.
like
what
3
theater did you go in?
AMC Norwalk.
Oh, I don't think I went to that.
I didn't go at midnight. I went like at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
But I saw like 3 or 4 times in the theaters. I went somewhere in El Monte, I think, or Monterey Park, whatever. I went there with my sister, and the reaction was trash. He picked up the hammer.
Well, the first time you saw it though, was the reaction good?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
that's
that
awesome.
third time,
What-
I went with my
was it-
sister. It was her first time seeing it,
Aw,
so
it
her reaction was
sucks.
trash. Like literally, he picked up the hammer, and everyone was like,
Bro, I'm like, that's they were like the Stephen A the Stephen A meme.
they're just in there.
Yeah. The Stephen A meme when he picked up the hammer. Yeah, I went also I got a midnight showing. Dude, the reaction was literally like I'm literally going to remember that for the rest of my
So am
life.
I.
Dude, it was like I was
Dude,
at
I
a
remember that reaction. I remember in the first Avengers where Thor lands on the plane when they're flying,
Uh-huh.
and the reaction for even that was insane.
Okay, but this one stands out.
Yeah, this one was way different. That one and when they walk through the portal.
Yeah, I was going to say even in Endgame when they walk through the portals, everybody's like, "Oh, yeah."
I was in the back. Wakanda forever. R.I.P.
Or I was in my seat like
I was doing the math. Ooh. Ooh. Oh no, what's the one that his tribe does? Because you know the Mafa one is M'Baku's tribe.
M'Baka. Well, no, it's M'Baku. I don't know.
Dang, I forgot
I think
it.
it's just Wakanda forever, no?
No,
And
they
they
do
go
a
like
little
that?
chat. Yeah, but they're doing like a chant when they're doing that.
Aren't they just going like ooh ooh ooh?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm thinking of like the fight scene when they're about to fight for the crown. And
Yeah.
it's like that.
Avengers. Assemble.
Ven para aquí.
Ven para aquí.
Pretty sure I said that word completely wrong, but anyway, yeah, dude, my reaction for Endgame, dude, literally like, I was at the game when Kobe tore his Achilles. That was the first Laker game I ever went to. I was at the game when he tore his Achilles and he hit his free throws after. A lot of people don't really talk about that game, but the Lakers were like battling the Warriors before Stephen Curry was even big. Like Stephen Curry walked on the court and I was like, he looks familiar. My dad was like, yeah, who's that? And Ryan was like, oh, I think he's a shooter. Dude, that's how long ago it was.
Yeah, it was
and
like
then-
2013, 14, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then dude, Curry dropped like I think 40 before halftime, and we're like, who the hell is this
Who the
kid?
fuck is this guy? It's alright, we're both 1-1. I've never been to an NBA game.
Man,
Poor
I was
people
gonna say
problems.
that would be funny if whenever we cuss, we could put like tallies on the side.
Oh, that'd be sick.
but that would
It would just
take
be 1 and
long.
1 on this one. I've been keeping count.
Yeah, we would just have to next time. Let's keep track of the time that we actually say it, so that we could do that. But anyway, dude. So I was at that game, and the environment there was insane when he hit those free throws. Like, dude, I don't even know how to explain it. You could
My-
like feel it in your blood.
My sister's boyfriend was at the game where he dropped 81.
Oh, that's
on
crazy.
Toronto.
Okay, and at end game, I feel like it was even crazier, dude. Because I don't know. I mean, like you said, when you go with an audience to watch that movie at midnight, where we all bought our tickets like months before the showing.
We've all been watching these whole series unfold for the past 10 years.
We planned this day for like years.
Dude, that was a 10-year movie in the making.
Yeah. I mean, when that happened, dude, when that happened, I wasn't expecting it at all. I literally I threw my stuff on the floor. My girl, they had her arm around me. I got off and I stood up and I was like, ah!
Started streaking around the theater.
Almost.
When dude, it happened to me. I was like, the Damon got me.
Dude, I straight up stood up and threw my arms up and screamed.
Yeah, I don't think I jumped up, but everyone was like, just
Yeah.
fucking screaming, dude.
Yeah, it was dope. How do we start talking about that?
I have no idea, because Avengers, that's masculine.
I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, like, someone that you would believe would be toxic, masculine in a toxic way, would see a scene like that in the theaters, and what would they do? They'd be like this.
That was dope, G.
Oh, he picked up the hammer. That's cool. But when you're actually masculine, you don't care about other people's opinions. You don't care if people think what you like is.
We weren't thinking about what are people going to think if I jump up.
Yeah,
right
you
now.
don't think if people think you're like nerdy or geeky, or if you, let's say you work out too much, people are going to think I'm a meathead. Anything, no matter what. Or let's say if you're a male and your purpose and like you love cooking. Oh, people are going to be, that's kind of a feminine thing to do. None of that cow poop matters.
None of that.
I could have just said it because you already cussed.
You cuss first.
Yeah, I didn't say that though.
This is the same thing.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. They both get treated the same way on YouTube.
It's like if I stabbed you in the leg versus like if I shot you in the heart. Yeah, they're both an ouchie, but one you're getting buried below, bro.
Nah.
I will move on.
And either way, you'll be tried for murder if I die.
No.
Because if you get my carotid artery, I don't even know if that's the artery. The artery in the.
I'll just say I slipped. Oops. And then
I had my ouchie out.
Little ouchie in,
I had
in the
my
leg.
ouchie out and I slipped.
I pulled out the ouchie on him and I tripped. My bad, G. Yeah, that's even though we brought that up to share part of our lives and get off topic. That's a perfect example of being who you are and not apologizing for it, no matter the narrative of the external in your life. The last one on this list is pretty interesting too. The last one is condemning males, and actually
we kind of talked about this.
Condemning males who act feminine, or condemning males that do feminine things with each other, like when they're in the bathroom and they blindfold each other and they play whose meat is this?
Or when one's brushing their teeth and the other one comes up behind them.
Oh my god. When your homie's brushing his teeth and like you come out of the shower and so you're not wearing anything and you just like go up behind him and let him know you're out the shower.
Just hug him and be like,
hug him from the back. Yeah. Just normal homie stuff.
Like people who are honestly insecure with their own sexuality would probably see that and be like, oh, that's
100%.
GAY.
100%.
But I mean, I wasn't there. That was a real life example that he used on the last one. I wasn't there, but even if I was, dude, I would have just been crying of laughter. Like I'm sure everyone else was there.
Yeah. 100%. So, I mean, and what would you say about the people condemning other men for acting feminine? We kind of talked about this.
Insecure with like their own sexuality, to be honest.
We kind of talked about this. We asked each other, do you think someone can be an alpha and still be homosexual?
I think they can, and you said you think they can too.
Yeah.
So, because I mean,
so
I don't think sexuality makes you an alpha.
Right.
I think it's the stuff you do day to day, the way you carry yourself, the way you treat others, is what makes you an alpha. So that's why I think 100%. There's also alpha women out there.
100%. So why do you think it is in there under toxic masculinity that condemning people that do that, condemning people that act feminine and condemning men that act feminine in general, and then condemning men that act feminine with their friends? Why do you think that's involved with toxic masculinity?
Because, like, I think when people do say, "Oh, that's gay" to their friends or something, and someone overhears it, and like a gay person will hear that and be offended, and like I said earlier, I don't think the people that are saying that, I feel like they're not confident within themselves.
1,000%.
And yeah, I don't know really like how else to put it. You know what I mean? I think it gets associated with toxic masculinity because toxic masculinity is like the women or sometimes even men seeing other men. Like women see men as a group, and if someone does something feminine, and and another guy says don't do that, that's feminine. Women are gonna get offended because it's like, what's wrong with being feminine? So that's what they like for toxic masculinity.
So let's say we had a third friend here in the podcast. We started a podcast with a third friend, whatever. And let's say he was gay, he was homosexual. Would you feel offended, or would you feel like you were uncomfortable with that? No, right? No, because
dude, it's also like another thing too with arrogance. Like a lot of straight guys who aren't really like confident in their sexuality aren't befriending gay people because they're like, oh, well, I don't want him to like me. But, dude, what makes you think he's going to like you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's again, that's arrogance. And then, like you said, too, I think that's 100% insecurity.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're secure with yourself, why would you even be,
Like, even
why
if
would you even have those thoughts?
a gay person does like me, I'm not going to care about it because it's not going to affect me. Like, they're not, as long as they're not, like, acting on it and, like, making me uncomfortable physically, then I don't care.
Like taking you to a view or something, or what?
Yeah.
um, yeah, 100%. So again, you already touched on this. The masculine version of the real masculine way to handle that is to treat anybody, period, like you would treat like you would want to be treated yourself. The golden rule: treat people how you want to be treated. Treat people how you want to be treated. Not treat straight people, not treat men, not treat women. Treat people, period, how you want to be treated. That is masculine. And I think the reason that the opposite was associated with toxic masculinity is because it's a male, it's associated with, and I believe wrongly, it's associated with the male character to believe that one way is the way and that's the way that he goes, when really in truth the masculine understands that there is other opinions out there, that just because he has one opinion or he has one way of life, that is not that does not have to be other people's purpose. That is only his purpose. Himself. I was gonna say something else. I totally forgot. Yeah, I think we kind of. Did you have anything else to add?
No, I like the way you wrapped it up at the end right there.
So, toxic masculinity, Lucas, does it exist? Okay.
No.
See,
And
okay.
I say no because, in my opinion, a lot of these things that they qualify as toxic masculinity are things that a masculine man would not do. So that's why I don't think it exists. I think they're misconstruing certain things that a man does and saying just because a man did it, it's a masculine thing. And since it's toxic, it gets called toxic masculinity.
Yeah, I remembered what I was gonna say. Like, for example, like a long time ago, there was the opinion that women were not smart enough to it was an opinion that women were not smart in general. Yeah. That women should just be the caretaker of the household, and period. And so I think that same perspective, that's the reflection. The reflection of that is what's going on with toxic masculinity. These views that are putting masculinity in a box, when really, when you open that box, that's not masculinity. That's something completely different. That is insecurity. That is arrogance. And though that is just, negative traits, not living in your purpose. That is just, living a toxic and scarcity mindset life in general. When really living in the masculine, we had a whole episode on this last episode. If you didn't listen, check it out. That means living in your purpose, focusing on your purpose, being a provider, being a leader, focusing so much on your purpose and realizing that everything else is just a compliment. Not chasing anything, but instead working to be the best version of yourself so that everything just becomes an attraction. Everything just gets attracted to you. And not only that, but actually wanting that, like actually believing that that is your purpose, because you can't just say, oh, I'm going to focus on my purpose so I can attract women. No, it does not work that way. You have to actually believe and actually focus on your purpose, because you believe that that is the one sole meaning of your life. And then on, you become a high value male, high value man living in his masculine purpose. And these other complements in your life, like women, money, finances, stability, become the complements that become attracted into your life once you've done so.
I love that.
Me amo. Bailey. Te amo. All right, I think I just said I love you.
Yeah, I think you did too. That was a good way to wrap it up, though.
Yeah,
You want to shout out your socials or what?
All right, I'll give myself a shout out for dropping some.
Wait, real quick before he shouts out his socials. We talked about this last episode. We want our comments to be an open discussion. So if you think we were wrong in anything we said, comment and let us know. Or just let us know what you thought we said wrong and why you think it's wrong. And I don't know, maybe we'll ponder on it and you might be able to change our mind on some of the things we said.
So as some males practicing living in their masculine purpose as well, we are 100% open to discussion, especially about topics that we may disagree on. So in the comments, please let us know anything that you disagree about, anything that you feel actually touched you in a positive way. If it was in a negative way, let us know what you disagree about. If it was in a positive way, let us know what you actually like that we said. Maybe we said something that you agreed with, that you couldn't really put it into words until now. I know that happens to me all the time. If you enjoyed it, leave us a like. If you didn't, just dislike it, Let us know how you really feel. If you feel like this could be helpful to someone else in your life, please share with them. Again, if you liked it and you want to see more, subscribe. There is more to come. We're dropping videos every week, 3 videos every week, a full episode every week, and highlights twice a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So be on the lookout on that on our YouTube, the You versus You podcast. Follow me on Instagram. My personal is at I am Bailey Contreras on Instagram and on TikTok. And on YouTube, I am at Bailey Contreras personally. And posting content all over those socials.
My socials are TikTok and Instagram are the same, at Lucas Wavy. My Twitter is also at Lucas Wavy. Don't really use it. Don't really plan on using it. Twitter is a horrible place to be. And my YouTube is at Lucas Fitzgerald, and content is coming soon.
Muy soon.
Muy soon. Muy soon.
All right, guys. Thanks for lifting.